Hello, hello. Welcome to part one of my interview with Stephen Robles. He is a great guy, a wealth of knowledge. And in this episode, we are going to talk all about Apple shortcuts or Apple's shortcuts or the Shortcuts app, Siri shortcuts, whatever you call it. It's about running automations on your iPhone and your iOS devices and really making your phone a less friction experience or a more frictionless experience. I loved this conversation, and Steven shares a lot of amazing resources. The show notes for this episode will be rich with links, so you can find them in the description or over at streamlined.fm/462. If you want to get access to a bunch of my shortcuts and even more automations, you can head over to streamlined.fm/automate to get my free automations database. But for now, let's dive into part one of this interview with Stephen Robles. All right, I am here with Stephen Robles, YouTuber, podcaster, shortcuts automations extraordinaire. Stephen, how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, man.
Thanks for being on the show. I'm really excited about this, and I really just want to dive right into it because I've been talking about automations a lot on this show this year. So, Apple's Shortcuts app, Apple Shortcuts, Siri Shortcuts, whatever. It's a thing by many names, maybe. What is it, and why should we care about it?
So Shortcuts was originally an app, third-party app for the iPhone called Workflow. And when that came out many years ago, it allowed you to automate things on your iPhone and was incredibly powerful. It almost seemed like, how are they getting away with this? Like they must be breaking Apple's rules. It was a great application. I used it from day one. And then eventually Apple actually acquired it and rebranded that Workflow app as Shortcuts. And that's what we have today. And Shortcuts is a powerful application. It's on your iPhone, iPad, and Mac, where you can do all kinds of things. You can I create my podcast show notes through a shortcut, which formats it with HTML and all the links from my Safari tab group. And you can do stuff like that. You can do simple things like when your iPhone battery reaches 20%, turn on low power mode automatically. You can create an automation for that. And then you can do very advanced automations, which I love to do because it's just fun to see what's possible. And it can do everything in between. A recent shortcut I did is you can use APIs from third-party services, like I did one from the movie database. And so I have a shortcut where when I tap it, I search for a movie name, it searches the movie database, I can choose which movie I intend, gets the movie poster, gets the link to the streaming service for that movie, and then creates a reminder in Apple Reminders with that link, the movie poster, and where to stream it all in a few seconds. And so those are some of the cool things you can do with shortcuts, and yeah, I geek out of it.
That is awesome. So you said something with the Workflows app. The reason I didn't get into it before Apple bought it is because I didn't want to invest all this time into an app for Apple to just be like, nah, you can't do that. So I was really happy to see that they bought it. And like for a little historical context, I think a lot of people thought, yes, this is where I'm activating devices. This is where Apple's assistant is, I'm going to have my editor bleep that, is really going to level up, right? Because you're essentially you could give it custom commands, which is really neat, right? And so I love that, that you like did this whole bit with an API, and there's tools like Pushcut server and things like that too, which is I think one of the objections I hear to it is like, you can only do stuff on device, and that's like increasingly less true, I think.
Yeah, it depends what you mean. I mean, Shortcuts is weird because it doesn't seem to get a lot of love from Apple because, for instance, Shortcuts on the Mac, there is no automations tab or options. So on the iPhone and iPad, you can set up automations for like when I leave home, when I connect to this Wi-Fi network, when I open this app, when I connect to CarPlay. Those options are available on the iPhone, but the Mac has none of those. And there would be so many more use cases if I could tell Shortcuts on the Mac, watch this folder in my files. And whenever a file gets added, rename it to this, run these steps. And so we're still waiting for shortcuts to really mature on the Mac and for Apple to do more with it. But with iOS 18 and Apple Intelligence, one of the big things that Apple announced at WWDC last year was that app intents, that's a technical term for apps will be able to give actions to the voice assistant, but also shortcuts that will make shortcuts even more powerful. So for instance, if you have a regular order you do through DoorDash, well, rather than go to the DoorDash app, you might be able to run a shortcut as a widget on your iPhone screen, and it will do your order automatically, and you never even have to open the DoorDash app. So that's kind of the promise, and what we might see really soon with iOS 18.4 and further software updates later this year. So I'm hopeful for that.
On your YouTube channel, one of the big topics you cover is shortcuts and teaching shortcuts, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So if I am completely new to shortcuts, where do you think I should start?
It's tough because it's different for everybody. You know, it's really what is most useful to you. And typically I say, what is a task you do all the time on your iPhone or your iPad that if shortcuts can automate would make your life way easier? And so, you know, you can start simple. I tell people one of the triggers for a shortcut can be when you open an app. Now, I keep my orientation always locked on my iPhone. So if I rotate my device, the screen doesn't rotate because I just like it in portrait all the time. But when I go to the Photos app, I want to be able to rotate it because my photos are in landscape. So one of the automations you can create is when you open the Photos app, it will unlock screen orientation. And then you can create a second automation for when you exit the Photos app, that screen orientation lock turns on. And just that simple on-off, I don't have to think about it, that's appealing to a lot of people. Automatic low power mode was one I had mentioned before. And another one, if someone's ever been in a waiting room or in a public place and they open the Instagram or the TikTok app and all of a sudden the music's playing very loudly or there's a very loud video, it's embarrassing, not fun. Well, you can create an automation that whenever you open Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or all the social media apps, the volume on your iPhone goes to 0% automatically. And then you can manually raise it when you want. And now it's like, oh, I can prevent myself from ever having that embarrassing moment because the volume is always on mute when I first open the app. That is a selling point for a lot of people. So simple automations like that are a lot of times attractive. And then I'll look at, productivity, the workflow. If someone does a lot of text formatting in work, I'd have a simple shortcut that just gives me a word count. So I can select text anywhere in any app on any of my Apple devices. I can tap share, run a shortcut that I call word count, and it'll just tell me what the word count is from the text I had selected. Just a simple thing like that can make a big difference for people. And then I have advanced shortcuts to formulate my podcast show notes, my YouTube video descriptions, all of that, and just gets more and more useful when you can integrate it into more of your workflow.
Yeah, I think that's really, if I'm going to generalize what you've said a little bit here, it's like if you feel friction using your iPhone, there's likely a shortcut to smooth out that friction, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Something similar to the first few that you named for me was like when I open a game, right? I don't want to get notifications. And so when I open any game, right, I have a shortcut that puts me in like a pretty strict focus mode where I get 0 notifications.
There you go.
And like this is great, right? Because like I don't know why they don't do that automatically. Maybe they do now, and I just didn't notice because I've had this shortcut for a while. But like one of the worst things that could happen while you're playing a game is you get like a notification that like messes up your game, right?
True.
Like
that is true.
So one of the worst things is maybe an extreme statement, but like it's not. It's an inconvenient thing, right?
It's pretty bad. I'll be honest. It's fine.
Yeah. Now some of your, I don't think this is where I discovered you, but the video that made me make sure I see all of your videos Well, one might be the leather cases, right? Whenever there's a new iPhone out. We'll talk about that when we talk about YouTube later, though.
Okay.
Was you did a video about like a super action button, I think, right?
Oh yeah. That was a popular
Yeah.
one.
So can we talk about that a little bit? Because I think like that's on more models of phones now, and it's a nice like tactile way to maybe execute a shortcut or do a little extra automation on your phone if you're not sure like how the automation triggers work.
For sure. Well, so one of the powerful things is the action button, which took the place of the silent mute switch. You can run a shortcut using that. Or you can open a folder of shortcuts and be presented with a menu to run multiple things. And I actually might do that real quick, but one of the first videos I did with it was let me do a shortcuts folder with multiple actions, and I created things like called super mute. And that did where it muted my phone, but also turned my volume down to 0. My media volume, so Instagram, no social media apps will play. You can also do things like this is a menu that I had here. One opens ChatGPT. One opens my garage door. One wakes up an Apple TV and opens the Apple TV remote control on my iPhone. And I can run a home screen, a home kit scene, smart home scene, and a bunch of other stuff. So all of a sudden, your one action button can now do a bunch of things, and that makes it useful. Or, honestly, what I typically have the action button set to is to skip forward 3 minutes whenever I'm playing media, because I listen to podcasts all the time. That's the main media that I consume. And I've been using the stock Apple Podcasts app, but the skip forward button is only 60 seconds. And if you listen to a lot of podcasts, you know many, many ads are longer than 60 seconds. And so I created a simple shortcut that skips forward 3 minutes. And I find that to be a good, like, skips past most ads. Sometimes I have to hit it twice. And then whenever I'm listening, I just hit the action button, skips the 3-minute ads, and I'm good to go. So that's what I use it for, and it's been worthwhile just having it like that.
That's fantastic. I know you must listen to a lot of iHeartRadio podcasts if you have to hit it
Smartless
twice.
show, a lot of ads. Let me just say, lots of ads, beginning, middle, and all of it. It's just,
yeah, absolutely. That or not to throw shade, but like The Daily Dad is a show I used to really like listen to all the time. That was a Ryan Holiday show.
Sure.
5-minute podcast, 2.5-minute ad. I'm like, all right.
Well,
I get it.
Even, listen, we're podcasters. I'm thankful for sponsors and ads.
Yeah.
Like, do all the ads. Honestly, like, most ads are either of something that I already have purchased or used or something I will never, ever use. And so it's like, and it's always funny, like, as a podcaster, you can go into Apple Podcasts and Spotify and you can see the retention graphs for your shows. And I always ask people, like, where do you think the ad is in this show? And you can just see the little U of retention because people skip forward. And so there's that little drop. So
yeah, absolutely. That's funny. I really like that. Since iOS 18, right, you could customize Control Center. So my action button just runs a shortcut that opens Control Center. Because I have I have anything I would have had in I had a super action button, right? Like based on focus mode and stuff like that. And I found that like, no matter what focus mode I was in, I was doing the same thing, right? Like David Sparks inspired me to do that. And like, but he like, if you want a masterclass in focus modes, check out Max Sparky. Like he like really like him and CGP Grey, like really take advantage of them in a way that I don't. And so just opening Control Center has been great because I have like the shortcuts I run and the apps I open. And
it's funny you say that. So I don't have it on my action button, but if I back tap my phone twice, then it will open Control Center.
Ah, nice.
Back tap twice and you can make it go away.
Yeah,
so
I wonder if that's a little faster. Back tap twice used to be my my camera.
Oh,
and
sure.
then there's now there's camera control, which I mean, it's not good for a lot of things, but it's good for quickly opening the camera at least.
I still have not gotten in that habit of using camera control for that. I'm not sure why. It's just I have a mental block, and so I will usually swipe right on the lock screen and usually do that. And I also have the camera icon just on my home screen, so I'll just tap it there.
Nice. I the case I use one of the things I got like the Beats case.
Oh yeah, those are good.
Yeah, it's a good one. I find it better than the Apple Silicon one, right?
I use the Apple
Uh,
Silicon when I go to the beach. That's the only reason I
mm.
have one, because it's a
Oh,
good
that's
like
smart.
sand deterrent, and it's
Yeah.
yeah, I don't have to worry about messing it up.
Yeah, that's smart. I like that. I have one in my drawer somewhere, so maybe I'll
Yeah.
try that for the beach this year. Um, but yeah, my requirement was no cutout for the camera button, which made it very limited for me. I think there's like 3 cases now, and 2 of them are made by Apple, I think.
There's becoming more. So the Ryan London case, which I have, is the first leather case with a camera
Yeah,
button, and
nice.
then D Brand just sent me their Ghost Case 2, and this one
Ooh,
also has a button for the camera, and it actually works really well.
nice.
Yeah,
This is I'll be ready for the next iPhone, right? Because I upgrade every year. I'm a
sure,
sucker.
sure,
I'm in the iPhone upgrade program.
same.
But we're like mid-cycle now, so I'm like, do I want to buy a case mid-cycle? Probably not, but kind of a little. I mean, I did last year because I had the Peak Design case for a long time, and then like their action button
Action button.
fiasco
Yes,
made me
yes.
wanna. I just got the Nomad case after that.
Yeah, Nomad's a good one. I mean, listen, I got cases coming out everywhere. I mean, this is,
Yeah.
I got a lot of, I got all these,
Ooh.
got all these,
Oh
I got a
my
lot of
gosh,
cases.
that's so many.
These are not even. I got more in my closet. These are just the ones I have on hand that
Man,
for
for all
different
those
reasons.
videos. Oh man. All right, yeah, we need to I think we need to uh finish our shortcuts discussion and then get
Sure.
to YouTube, which by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this in a podcast app, there are some good visuals here for this one. So, check it out on YouTube or Spotify, videos in both places. So, I think if you want to see all the cases that Steven just held up, I think that's really worth the
I was showing
view.
my phone screen too, the action button and other
That's
things.
true. Yeah, there's a lot of good visuals in this one.
For sure.
Which I do. I have a. I'm gonna ask like an opinion question of you later about this podcast and my YouTube channel. But
Okay.
for shortcuts, we kind of got like what it is and some ideas. Um, I want to. How do you build your shortcuts? Do you do it from your phone or your iPad or the Mac? The Mac has been the most frustrating for me, I think. But
It's
I'm
so
just
difficult
curious.
because doing it on a small screen is difficult, but for some reason, my shortcut syncing is so bad that if I create a shortcut on the Mac or my iPad, I can go to my iPhone, I'll see the shortcut there, and when I go to open it, all the steps are gone. I don't know why. It's super buggy. I'm not sure if it's because I have too many Apple devices syncing my shortcuts. I'm not sure. So for that reason, I basically create them all on my iPhone because for some reason when I do that, it's more reliable. It syncs better. And
Okay.
then that's also when I make shortcuts for my videos, which I do a lot of requests. That's basically all my shortcuts videos are now is just building shortcuts for other people.
Nice.
Oftentimes they are wanting actions and automations that are only on the iPhone. So
Hmm.
if you wanted to create an action that checks your reminders for something or checks your calendar, it's just easiest to just build it on the device that I know they're going to run it on. And so I just start everything from the iPhone. It's cumbersome because that screen is small and you have to like whatever, but I just do it on there.
Yeah. Yeah, I've pretty much found the same. Like if I'm in front of my computer, I'll try to build it on the computer, but like if there's an app that I want to access, right, that's only on my iPhone, then I run into a problem. Or like is it
Yeah.
Todoist? I think Todoist has shortcuts only on iOS and not
That,
on the Mac, which kills me.
but there's also apps like Toolbox Pro and Actions. Those are third-party apps that inject more actions into shortcuts so that you can do more powerful things. Those are only available on the iPhone. So you can't even really incorporate those if you try to build them on the Mac. So yeah, I just default to iPhone.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually didn't consider that. I guess that's how infrequently I build on the Mac, right? Because like Toolbox
Sure.
Pro and Actions are both really good
They're
apps.
great. For sure.
So something that we don't normally talk about on this show, which I probably will do more of this year, is home automation. Uh, tell me some of your favorite home automations.
Yeah, so I have, over 100 Apple smart home devices around the house. I'm all Apple HomeKit. I don't use HomeBridge. I don't use Home Assistant. I just keep it all baked in to HomeKit.
Nice.
But, easy automations are like motion detector, light. If it detects motion, light turns on, turns off 5 minutes later. I do that for my closets, for the pantry, things like that. One of the cool automations is I got smart shades in my bedroom and master bathroom. And if the windows look out to the yard, if there's ever lawn people or other people walking around the house, workers, that they could just see right in. And so I have an automation where when you turn on the exhaust fan in the bathroom, which you do 100% of the time when you take a shower, the
Right.
shades automatically close. And it only happens during the day. So you turn on the fan, shades close. Then when you turn off the bathroom vanity light, I have it so you can just press that one switch off, turns off all the lights because there's multiple switches in the bathroom, closet in there, like so everything turns off. And then the shades will raise when you turn that light off, but only before sunset. So, they'll only raise then. Then another one I love is we have a patio with some fans out there. And so what I did was I have a motion sensor and an Eve weather, which senses the temperature. And if you walk out on the patio, so if it detects motion, and if it's hotter than like 75 degrees, the patio fans will turn on. And so it's a hot day, you walk out to the patio, the fans turn on automatically. You don't even have to think about it. So those are some fun automations.
I love that. The exhaust that closes the shades, is that based on like, is it just the switch that it's on, or is it like?
So one of the home automation triggers in the home app on your iPhone can be when an accessory is controlled, and that can trigger other automations. So what I have it set up is when the exhaust fan, and it is a smart switch, it's a Lutron switch that I can control individually in the app, but when that accessory turns on, then I can trigger the shades to close and all that kind of stuff. So I use that accessory a lot, actually. Any room where if you're going to turn off this one switch, your intention is really to turn off all the lights in a room, that when accessory controlled trigger is really useful because I can just turn this one thing off, everything in the room turns off, you can run a scene, and it just makes it more convenient.
Yeah, definitely. I have a Wemo switch, which I kind of regret getting a Wemo switch.
I got a bunch of Wemo switches when they were around because Belkin was one of the few early adopters to HomeKit and made most of the switches that were reasonably priced.
Right.
But unfortunately, and I've heard this from Belkin directly, they're just not really focusing on smart home anymore. And so, yeah, I would recommend not going with Belkin Wemo today, but they were a great option for many years.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, today I would definitely recommend, like you said, Lutron, or if you're looking for like good like smart outlets, Miros?
It's actually Meris.
Meris. Interesting.
I only know because I did a HomeKit Insider, the podcast, for like a year and a half, and we asked them because we talked to them all the time. And we were like, "How do you pronounce this?" And it's actually Meris. So
Meris.
Yeah,
good to know. So so like Lutron or Meris, but yeah, so I have a Wemo switch with the Wemo bridge, because this was like before. Also, they had direct HomeKit integration, but
I gotcha.
Anyway, that one switch turns on and off my whole office, right? So like I have, and I do use HomeBridge for my Elgato key lights, but like that's such a capricious situation. Like I have a Mac Mini, like a refurb. I think you actually posted this link to like a refurb Mac Mini for $500.
I did, yeah.
And I was like, great, that'll be my home automation Mac Mini. I have HomeBridge on there and I have push cuts, but I can't get push cuts to work in the beta, like push cuts server. I can't get it to work in the beta.
I've never tried the push cuts server. I just run it through the app. But I will say I have two Elgato Keylight Airs. One is my fill light and one is my hair light up there.
Yeah.
But rather than use HomeBridge, I just put them on a smart plug. And so they're a part of my HomeKit scenes, but just because they're on a smart plug. And they're good at remembering their setting. So I set the intensity and temperature with the Elgato app, and the smart switch turns it on and off, and they always come back how I need them.
That's good. That's probably less frustrating than
Homebridge.
turning my lights off and then realizing that like Homebridge is offline or something.
I did that because I used Homebridge for a little while. In my last house, I had a Vivint security system, including a doorbell camera, and Homebridge was great for integrating that into the home app, where I can get alerts that way. I could get see the camera feed, but after we moved, I'm like, no more Homebridge. It's too buggy. I don't have to deal with plugins and updates. Like, it's too much.
Yeah, yeah. And like this is the only thing I'm using it for. So for those who don't know, Homebridge is basically like I would say like a little server that you run on a computer, and then you can connect Wi-Fi connected devices that don't have direct home app integration into the home app. So for me, the key lights, like when I open Ecamm Live, I run a shortcut called Streamline Solopreneur Lighting, and it makes my key lights a little warmer because otherwise I look super blown out, but it makes my office a little darker. And so like when I close Ecamm Live, it brings all the lights up to full blast, right? And so like that is an automation that like only Homebridge really affords me. And so the pain hasn't gotten such that I'm ready to throw it all out the window yet.
It's understandable. I get it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, this is great. So something I've always thought about, right, is this like your forever home, or have you thought about like, what am I going to do with all my smart devices if I move?
I mean, I had that issue with the last house because I actually did invest, put some Lutron switches around, and those I took out of the wall and took with me because they're expensive.
Yeah, for sure.
So I did that. This home I think will be here for a long time. So I'm not even thinking about that yet. But one of the things I hope to do in the near future is have one of these shed offices in the backyard.
Yeah.
Because my studio right now is in the house, and I have 3 kids, and I record all my videos before 10 a.m. because it's the quietest then. But, it would be nice to have a dedicated space outside the house. I don't have to worry about any kitchen noise. I don't have to worry about anything. And there, I'll be curious how I can smart home everything. I would have to get internet out there, which I would want to do wired Ethernet. And so that's a job. But then also how I would do the smart home. So we'll see. I'll tackle that when it comes.
Yeah, that's something I've thought about a lot. I recently switched from the Ubiquiti Amplify Wi-Fi network to just Eero because I'm not like a network engineer, and I know I was getting some interference. And I'm like, I don't know. Eero seems idiot proof.
It's a good option.
Yeah, it works well, right? And I think it does a better job of like switching access points for me in the size of my house than you like. I trust if there are network engineers listening, they're going to be like, Ubiquiti is obviously better. And I'm like, that is true if you know what you're doing. Anyway, Eero just finally just released like a weatherproof access point that I'm very excited to stick on the side of my shed because I will like watch baseball games out there, and sometimes I'll work and stuff like that. I'm not obviously not for recording or pushing 4K video or anything like that, but for my needs, I'm really excited. It's like $400, but I'm like pretty excited to like slap that on the side of my shed. And then also like get the camera that looks over the backyard working again, because there's like a solar panel and I think it's like dusty or died or something, and so
it's out of range.
So
For sure.
awesome. Well, I want to so for those listening, this will be a 2-parter, and we're going to move into YouTube for the second part, but I do want to wrap up the shortcuts discussion because we talked a lot about, I think we've given people ideas. I think that's probably like the best. I'm going to do that again. Hold on. Joel, you can edit that part out. So I think the best that we've done, or the best that you can do for like an automations discussion, is really give people ideas and get their, get their gears turning. Because we're not going to like talk someone through how to build a shortcut, right? That's just not great content. But if people do want to, let's say we've convinced them, oh, hey, I'm ready to get started with shortcuts. would you point them in a direction, or would you just tell them to like open the Shortcuts app and try stuff? What's your approach?
Well, I would tell them to go to my YouTube channel, and there I have a playlist for shortcuts. There's actually now over 40 videos all about shortcuts. But the reason why I say that playlist is because the first few videos I've specifically ordered to kind of start from scratch, basics, early automations, easy automations, and then gets more advanced from there. So my shortcuts playlist on the channel, I would say go there. And you can also have a shortcuts community where you can join for free, create.beard.fm, where people submit their shortcuts. You can ask questions. You can request, how do I build this? And some others from the community might help you. And you can even support my community there. And I prioritize those shortcuts requests and I build them in the videos. So over almost 1,000 people have joined my community there, which is awesome. And so, yeah, I'd love to see you there too.
That is fantastic. So we will link to your YouTube channel and that playlist specifically in the show notes, as well as your community in the show notes. You can find all of that in the description wherever you're listening or watching, but also at streamlined.fm/462 for episode 462. That's amazing. I love that. All right, that does it for part 1. Come back for episode 463. That's going to be part 2 of my interview with Stephen, and we're going to move more into the YouTube side of things. He grew a YouTube channel pretty quickly, focused on the kind of stuff that we talked about in this episode. And what's really shocking or impressive about that is that talking about Apple tech is a really crowded field. So Stephen's going to get into kind of his unique perspective and offers some great advice. So be sure to tune into that episode. And if you have any feedback, you can leave it at streamlinedfeedback.com. I really appreciate you writing into the show with your thoughts and topic suggestions and questions. So thanks so much for listening. And until next time, I'll see you out there.